What is going on? This is Ricardo with Within the Trenches Media, and we're about to get started with this April Media Partner Sponsor Highlight live broadcast here with RQI, and there's a lot of stuff that we have to talk about today. It's going to be a lot of fun, and as always, if you can, make sure as you're joining in here, do a roll call, where are you watching from, all that good stuff, but also make sure to throw in some reactions and also share this broadcast on your favorite dispatch page or on your feed, however to get it out there, because again, we've got some amazing stories and information that we're going to be sharing here, and we want as many people as possible to be able to not only see this but also view this while we're here. And also as we're going through this, if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, please make sure to throw that in the comments, and we'll go through that as well. Also, if you lose any audio, or if I'm looking a little Nintendo-like 8-bit or anything, let me know. Throw that in the comments as well, because I am currently live from my hotel room in Orlando, Florida, and the Wi-Fi is it's all right. It's okay. But if you happen to see me start doing some crazy stuff, it's the Wi-Fi. I'm not convulsing or anything. So I just let me know if you see anything. But I'm very excited. It's coming back from actually the Navigator conference that was going on. It's actually still going on right now. There's other classes that are going until I think this afternoon. But this whole past week, I was out in Nashville, Tennessee for the Navigator conference, and big shout out again to the IAD for hosting the podcast. Appreciate it very much. I was out there, and I didn't have any sessions this year. I will be putting in for one next year, but I was out there and doing the podcast and just saying hello to attendees and everything else. So it was such a good time. But I was also I did a photo spot, and actually, let me bring my first guest up here to kind of talk about this, because there was something really cool that was part of the conference that I had, at least for myself personally, I had not seen before, and I thought it was pretty awesome to have that out there. So my first guest here is going to be Julie Buckingham, and she's the program director out at RQI, who is one of Within the Trenches Media's media partner sponsors.
Hi there.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having us today.
Yes, this is going to be awesome. We're going to be getting to this with our guests here in just a moment as well. But I wanted to bring you on really quick to kind of talk about what you had at your booth, because you had, I guess, like a simulation, right? A simulator type for doing CPR and stuff. And there was music for people to keep rhythm, and you were able to kind of rate a little bit on how well they were doing everything. And at one point, I remember somebody was over there, and they were going through the compressions and everything, and I could see them. They were doing it to the rhythm of the song that was playing. I don't remember which one it was at the time, but at the end, everyone was cheering and screaming and everything because of how well they did. So what exactly was it that the attendees were doing there?
That was so fun. That was our Cpr Skills Station. So we brought out some of our RQI simulation station equipment, which is what we use for some of our programs. And what it provides is real-time feedback on the quality of your CPR. So it rates compression, depth, recoil. And part of the reason why we brought it out, one, it's a great engagement activity, but you were only doing 60 seconds of CPR during that activity. And I think that it was a really good demonstration of how physically taxing it is to do high quality CPR. And put that in the context of, we're asking callers to do this quality of CPR for 7, 10, sometimes longer minutes. And, the importance that we play as telecommunicators in coaching and encouraging. So it was a great activity, and it seemed like people had a really great time with it.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. Again, that one specifically that I remember hearing, everyone was cheering, and I turned around. I thought, well, they must have got a good score, or whatever it is that's going on over there. But yeah, there was and every time I looked over, because you were just diagonal from me, every time I looked over, there was just, you were being swarmed by people. So it was really good to see that people were out there and just taking notice of everything that you're doing in the program. So it was really good.
Thanks.
So before I bring up our guests here for some introductions, I want to go ahead and start with you, with your introduction, of course, and then, what is RQI? What are you all about? And, why do you do what you do?
Yeah, so I direct the RQI TCPR program, which is the American Heart Association's performance improvement program. And we focus on improving the resuscitation quality provided by telecommunicators. So our goal is to provide first responder level training to the first responders in a cardiac arrest. So we work with agencies like the one we're about to meet, PENCOM, to help telecommunicators just improve their overall resuscitation competency. We don't take these calls very often, and we're not afforded historically the opportunity to continue to train, to work to not just perfect, but master our TCPR skills. And that's really what we're focused on here. And in the systems that we're working with, that focus on telecommunicators and their resuscitation training is really demonstrating itself to have impact in the data that we see and in the outcomes. So I'm excited to hear from Carl and Dennis today, and the save stories that they've had, their recent accomplishments. It's going to be fun.
Awesome. And for those who don't know, more about you and everything, what is your background in public safety and how did you get to RQI?
Yeah, so my public safety communications career started in 1998, and I spent about 15 years in the communications center before I left to go be the program manager for the EMD program, or the EMDQI program at King County EMS. Did that for 5 years. Became part of the Seattle King County Resuscitation Academy at the same time. And it was through that I started working with RQI on the development of this TCPR program. And, I realized at some point they were probably going to bring someone on to manage this program. And I wanted it to be someone who had a passion for our profession and in improving outcomes. So, I made the leap from 20 plus years of government work to come work in the private sector. And so I still feel a part of the public safety communications community. I just work in a different way within the community. And it's gratifying work, and it's one of the best decisions I ever made. Love what I do every single day.
That's amazing. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to talk to you here towards the end a little more when we get to the wrap up of this broadcast. And I'm going to bring up our next guest and have you say hello and everything in passing. And then we'll bring your window down here and we'll have their introductions and such. So our next guest here is going to be Carl Hatton, and he is director out at PENCOM 911.
Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, man. How's it going?
Excellent.
Awesome.
Julie, it's good to see you.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, sir.
Yeah, this is going to be good. I'm excited. I've been going over notes and everything and emails back and forth on some of the stuff that we were going to be talking about today. So this is going to be fun. And our next guest here is also from PENCOM. He's communications supervisor. His name is Dennis. And is it LeBoy? Am I saying that right? Okay.
Hi there.
Hello, and welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Julie, we'll see you here shortly, and we're gonna continue the spotlight going.
Very good.
Awesome. All right. So for the both of you, I want to learn more about you. We're going to get to some of the stories as well through this program from RQI and everything, and kind of find out, why it is that the program was chosen to begin with and everything. But for Carl, let's go ahead and start with you. So let's go with a little bit of your background for those who are watching and listening. How did you get into public safety to begin with?
Yeah, well, I started before probably most of your audience was born. So I started in the year of our Lord, 1986. I was a volunteer firefighter in a small town in Sequim, and the fire chief contacted me and said, "Hey, we're hiring a part-time graveyard shift dispatcher. Are you interested?" And that's what started it. So I started working part-time in Sequim, and then I moved to a full-time position. We consolidated to Port Angeles, and so I joined that team, and I've worked in the field for over 30 years as a public safety telecommunicator, as a first line supervisor, as a trainer, as a training coordinator, deputy director, executive director, all over the place in there. And I, like Julie, love what I do. I absolutely love my work.
That is amazing. So your first shift was a midnight shift?
Yeah, I worked Sunday Sunday night, Monday morning, graveyard shift, all by myself. It was a single dispatch center with the old boom mic with the little push pedal on it. We dispatched for one law enforcement agency and one fire department. We had a plywood wall that had little toggle switches that controlled the traffic lights in town. I mean, this is seriously old school dispatching. But yeah, that's where I started. And my training consisted of a person sitting down with me and explaining, this is the radio, this is how you push the button to talk, these are the things you don't say, and here's how you answer a phone, and good luck. And that was really it. And so the first 911 I took was absolutely terrifying. And that was the day when you actually had to work to get location, because there was no Annie Alley. There was just a phone ringing, and you had to figure out where they were. So yeah, a lot of changes since then.
Yeah, and for the better, right? Because I was the same as you when I first started out. I started out in Central Florida, and I went in for my first shift, and it was also a midnight shift. And I observed my trainer take one 911 call after he showed me, all the screens and everything and how they work and stuff. And he told me that I was next. And I thought he was joking because, I also thought there's got to be more to this. There's got to be more to, the types of training or anything like that. And luckily, about a week or so later, I did have a 40-hour beginner's dispatcher's course that I went to. But that first night, I took my first call and terrified as well, but it was a missed dial. So it ended up being nothing, but man, I was freaking out, man.
so nothing changes, because most of our 911s are missed dials. So
yes, yeah. And when I started, it was 2001 when I started. So yeah, all those first ones, missed dials. Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get into more of your background story as well here in just a moment. But Dennis, same question. How did you get into public safety to begin with?
Well, it's kind of interesting, actually. My background was construction. I did plumbing and bathroom remodels, basically, taking on the trade. And I saw this ad in the paper, had a young family, and I see, 911 operator. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. No problem. Answer phones, whatever. It's got benefits. Okay, I'll apply. It was about a 6-month process before I got a call back, and they're like, hey, are you still interested? I'm like, in what? I couldn't even remember what I applied for. And so my training consisted of classroom training and then console training. So about 4 months. And I had no idea what it involved. I absolutely didn't realize, radio, there's business line calls, you're talking to officers. I mean, I was like, wow, I was really surprised in what it entailed. Right. And so I love the challenge. There was definitely times where you question yourself, can I do this? Is this something that I'm going to be able to make it through? I remember my first 911 call. I actually was not supposed to answer 911s, and Carl was training Susan. And so they were busy, and I just hear this 911 ringing, and I'm in the call taker position. We'd already done some practice, and I'm like, this thing's ringing. No one else is able to get to it. So I answered it. And it was this very sweet old lady who was telling me she was having a hard time breathing. And I just kind of followed the steps that I had been taught. And that was my very first 911. And I remember telling Carl, I'm like, I just took a 911. I've got him dispatched. I think I did everything right. He's like, gave me the thumbs up. Perfect. And that was the start. So I've been able to do this now for 10, almost 11 years here in June. Honestly, I do enjoy what I do. This is a lot of fun for me. It's a way that I can help out my community. And like I said, the challenge is something that keeps me motivated. And I will continue doing it until they'll kick me out of here. But every day you learn something new. And the biggest thing about this job is that you can continue to improve. And I really love that challenge.
Yeah, I agree. There's so much that is with 911 that things don't they're never the same. The incident type might be the same, but the situation that's involved with that incident type is always different. And the moment you think you've taken the craziest or strangest or whatever, EST that you can add to a word or whatever. The universe says, "Hold my beer," and some other call
right.
comes out, and you're like, "No way! Did not expect that one." For either one of you, was there ever a moment, like an aha moment, where you thought, and maybe it happened right off the bat when you were starting out, but there was that moment where you thought, you know what, I'm exactly in the spot where I'm supposed to be. Like, this is my calling. Did either one of you have anything like that? Whether it was a specific call or an incident that happened, or maybe it was just a feeling you had out of nowhere.
Go ahead, Dennis.
I don't know that I've ever felt that. Like, I try to stay humble, because that's the biggest thing about this job. You start getting to that point where you think you know it all, and that's where it's gonna get you. But I think there's times where I've even talking to Adrian with RQI, where it's more of you feel like, what, this is kind of a calling, where you've been put in this position to help others and to do a job that not everyone can do. And so I do kind of feel that, where, what, I'm in this position for a reason, and I can help those who need help, where, others can't do this job. And so I do really appreciate being in that. It's an honor to be in that position, where I can do this job, but not for a second will I ever feel that, this is, oh, I got it, I can do it. No, I want to make sure I don't overstep.
Right. Yeah, because you're always learning, right? You're constantly learning every day. There's always something new that ends up coming up.
Absolutely. Exactly. I think for me, I started when I was 18 and didn't know any better. And really, it's what I've known. I was a volunteer firefighter and did all the other first responder things. But, after about 20 years of being a working console, I was pretty much done. I was feeling burned out. I was not happy at work. My coworkers knew that at the time. And I had an opportunity to move to Hawaii. I took a 7-year vacation and worked in private industry. I ran security for resorts there, and did some great stuff. It was lots of fun. But moving back, I realized that in that work, as much fun as it was and all the crazy benefits that come with working in the hotel resort industry, I missed this, and I came right back to dispatch. I started back as a first level dispatcher and then became a supervisor and worked my way back up the food chain, and realized that my other work was great, but it was dispatching. I was working in this field that actually kind of fulfilled just that need to be, to help other people. And as I moved through my career, being in a position, in a leadership position and being in a management director position, I'm back at school working on my degree, because I plan to do some research surrounding stress in 911. And so I just it's involved me completely, and I want to keep finding ways to benefit both my staff here as well as our profession across the country. So it's just, it's exciting. And I think that's what it was for me, was coming back from kind of private industry and realizing that nothing was quite the same as what we do here, as crazy as it is.
Right. You just think about the technology alone, the differences from when you started to how it is now. Even, like me starting in 2001, there was so many differences. And to think now and to talk to people and how they're using certain technologies, I get a little jealous sometimes, because I wish I was in there using some of these technologies and putting them to good use, where I remember being there and having, to hear someone yelling and not have any location or anything, and trying to figure out, well, what do I do next? What do I do now? So yeah, it's a lot different. It's definitely different.
Yeah. And so much busier. So much busier than it used to be.
Right. Yeah. There's so much that is going on. And so I have a question. This is for the both of you, whoever wants to go first. But if you could go back in time to when you first started and talk to yourself with the information that you have now in your experience, like, what advice would you give yourself?
Go ahead, Dennis.
That's a good one. Gosh, I was also pretty young, not as young as Carl. And I was really looking at the benefits, but I think the advice I'd give myself is just to remember to just stay humbled, stay positive. One of the biggest things in this job is you have to have that flexibility. And just, I wish I would have done a little more volunteer work, like in the fire side, kind of like Carl got to do, and the medical side. But basically for me, just have a big picture in mind, understand what it is you're actually doing, that calling that you have, and just keeping that open mind of I'm here to help people, and staying positive.
Excellent.
Yeah. I think at 18, I think if I had to give myself advice, I would say run. No. Um, no, I think, part of what led to me feeling burned out after 20 plus years was not like proper self-care. And I think a lot of that just goes with, how we think about things, how we view life, how we tend to start viewing the public when we deal with the 1% of the worst issues that occur in society. We deal with those all day long, and we start to see everything in that filter, which is unfortunate. And I think if I could have reminded myself back then to work on a positive outlook on life, have gratitude, and have a practice of gratitude, which I actively have had for the last probably 10 years, I think that might have saved me from feeling that kind of burnout and need to escape, which was it was very strong back then. And so I think those are the things is learning, especially as a young dispatcher, someone moving into the industry, how to take care of yourself, how to recognize when things aren't going well upstairs, and you deal with calls. That I have calls in my head that I will be there until the day I die, and that's okay. It's how you process what you do with that, and developing those tools, I think is absolutely critical. And I wish I had more of those skills when I started.
Yeah, I agree. So we're right there. That's something that I would go back and tell myself, is to actually take some time to take care of myself.
Right.
Get into yoga earlier, and also into like meditation and breathing techniques, because it was the last year or so of my dispatch career that I started getting into more of that stuff, and doing breathing techniques while on the phone, while taking calls. I was able to keep myself calm, which then keeps the caller calm, and I was able to process things a lot better. Where in the beginning, I was just bearing everything, and
Right.
and that wasn't good. Which is why I like that we can have conversations like this, so that for those who are watching and listening, they can learn from our experience, and hopefully they don't have to go through some of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to look at, now that we've learned more about the both of you and all. I want to know more about about the program, how you use it. But first off, why you chose to go with this program in the first place.
Sure. So I guess I'll take that because I'm the one that selected it. So, so number one is that Julie Buckingham and I have known each other since we were wee children, in the industry, at least.
Yeah.
We've worked together. We both used to work at the Criminal Justice Training Center as instructors and co-facilitators. We taught classes together. So when Julie tells me she's got this great thing, I tend to listen and perk up because I think she's probably right. And so back in the day when I was a first level supervisor in my center, I did my own quality assurance program. Basically, I developed it myself. I had an Excel spreadsheet. I spent hours and hours every month trying to compile data so that I could show people their call times and their time to, all the different pieces that we're trying to measure. And I think it's important for people to recognize that you need something. You need some sort of quality assurance. You need some sort of call review, even if it's like what I did out of basically an Excel spreadsheet and trying to figure it out on my own. But when I saw RQI, so I started, working with Resuscitation Academy, and I did a class with them, and I've been to a lot of their functions, and really excited about what they're doing. I did a bunch of beta testing on the software that's kind of behind RQI, which was really exciting as well. And I'm really data driven. So when they were able to show me that we can collect data on all of your CPR calls, and we can provide you trending, we can provide you where there might be gaps that need to be filled with training, all of those data points, I was like, I'm sold. It doesn't even matter. I need that. And so, we basically took a full year of data as we joined RQI, we took a year of data from before. And I would say, rightly so, I think, that my staff is professional. My staff cares. My staff does good quality telephone CPR, and they care about what they do. But what this showed us is when we provided very granular pointed training every single quarter, and we started measuring it, we started actually showing them where they were at, the improvements we had were crazy. And I can give some data at some point here if you want, but our times from being able to recognize that this was a CPR call to putting chest compressions, putting hands on chest, are just, they're so far ahead of where they used to be. It's actually kind of crazy. And I think it speaks to the fact that my staff does care, that they are professional, that they take this profession seriously. And when they're provided with this kind of feedback and training, they don't take it personally. They take it as, here's the challenge and here's what we're supposed to do. And they move into it and they just own it. And I really like that. So, you know, so with an RQI, and not to be just like a commercial for them, but, you know, the analytics that I get are phenomenal. I can look back over the last couple of years that we've been in the program month to month and see where our data trends. We can provide input to them on their quarterly in-person training that they do, or online training that they do with us, so that they can focus on a particular issue that we're seeing in our calls that are coming in, reviewing all of our calls and providing some objectivity, not just subjective, this is what we think it should be, but objective data. All of those things as a combined package are great. And then the people, our individual that does all of our quality assurance reviews and looks at all of our calls. She was a dispatcher. She is an amazing human being and a great communicator. And my staff, I think, across the board, they were reticent to start with, because nobody wants to be evaluated. Really? Do you want to be critically evaluated and judged? But once they had a couple of sessions with her, I think the comfort level, and I'll let Dennis speak to that, for how that rolled out and what that felt like for the staff. But we keep repurchasing and reevaluating and using RQI over and over. So,
well, and before we get to Dennis on that part to explain a little more, I got to ask why, or not why, but how important is this amount of data that you're getting? You know, how important is it to you, the staff, and everyone as a whole?
That is such a layered answer. So I think Julie would probably suggest there's 2 points that she would probably make, and I'm going to make them for her. She can correct me later. But one is, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So if you can't provide specific measurement points, there's no way to improve what you're doing, because you don't know where you are, right? So I think that's number one. And that's kind of a mantra coming out of RQI and the American Heart Association and our Resuscitation Academy. And so I think that's probably the key point. And the second point is that because we are providing higher and higher quality telephone CPR to our public, our survival rates are going up. We have survival stories of people that we have medics reaching out to us saying, if you hadn't done what you did, this person would not have had a chance of survival. And because you did what you did, we have actual survivals that our medics are giving us at least partial credit for creating an environment where they survived and got out of hospital intact, which for us, like, that's the key, right? We are trying to take care of our citizens and the people that rely on us for help. And if we're providing a better, higher level of service, and the outcome is that more people are surviving and grandpa gets to go back home, or dad gets to see his family, or whatever that is, like, that's what it's about for me. And I think if you don't look at what you're doing and measure it and then try to improve it, you're going to have the same outcome you've always had, right? Which might be fine, right, but it might not be. Yeah.
Excellent. Dennis, going to you, what was it like there for the staff and everything as this was coming about? And the way Carl was saying, that not everyone wants to be evaluated or judged or anything like that. And people don't like change either. So what was that like for everyone, as well as you, going into all of this?
Yeah, there was definitely some of us were skeptical and wondering, oh man, change. We're doing something different. And but the biggest thing is we were all willing to give it a shot. Like Carl was saying, we used to do where you had a spreadsheet, you'd come in with your supervisor and you'd listen to that call. And it was never fun to listen to that call. But to some level, there has to be some kind of quality assurance where we're going over these calls and making sure we're holding our staff accountable. Where could you improve? Because ultimately, what is it that we're trying to do? We're trying to help our community and give them the best level of service that we can. We have to be able to acknowledge our errors and make improvements, and there has to be a level of measure. So when we went to RQI, I think at first we were had some question marks, but I think overall, it's something that's really helped us. I like seeing data. For example, our compression rates, maybe we're at 80 compressions, a minute or so, and we need to be at 100 to 120. So that's something that when we're practicing, we're able to be, there's an assessment on that. Were you at the right compression rate? 30 seconds from the call, we want to have an address. 120 seconds after that address, we want to be doing the first compression. If we can do it sooner, absolutely. But I think having those numbers in mind really helps everybody, have a high quality, opportunity to provide that CPR, and the numbers speak for themselves. So for me and for my staff, I told them, hey, have an open mind, go in. Some of them would say, I'm already having to do CPR, for real. I don't want to practice it. I hate those calls, and well, we want to build a level of comfort. You're never going to be comfortable answering those, but I'm a big believer in practice makes perfect. I'm a big, I love things like exercising and you have to repetition. You need repetition to improve, to maybe get stronger or build endurance. Similar thing here. You need repetition. You need practice so that you can learn from that and improve. So I think it's been great having those simulations quarterly.
Yeah, that is really good to be able to have just all that information there and to bring them in and learn. And I think a lot of times too that there will be folks who say that they don't like change and they don't want to move forward or get into all of this other stuff, but then you show them how good it is, and you have all of this to back it up, and then they're all for it. And so a quick example, and this doesn't have to do with the program, this is something else. This has to do with text to 911. But I remember going and training a few folks. This was in West Virginia, and I remember the training coordinators like, I'm telling you, I've got some seasoned dispatchers, and I don't think that they're going to be down for this. They're not going to be down for it at all. The younger folks that are here, they're going to be all about it because all they do is text. Well, it was the other way around when I started training. The seasoned dispatchers were all about it. They loved it. The younger ones were like, I don't know about this. I don't know that I want to do this. So it was awesome, because then I looked at the training coordinator and he's just like, I don't know. but it was cool to see. A lot of them, when you've got a bunch of data and other information to back it up and show how good it is for everyone involved, that they turn around and they get into it and they start wanting to do it.
Yeah, I gotta say, just to add to that just a little bit, is that I credit my staff for being resilient, for being willing to take something that they're questioning and run with it. And just a couple of data points, because Dennis also kind of mentioned that data is important. And I can say that some of the times that we're measuring for a 1-year change, right, from 1 year to the next, we went from the start of the phone call to actually doing the first compression was at about 260 seconds. That's what it was. After a year of participating in this training, classes, QA, QI, we went down to 160 or 146 seconds. We cut 120 seconds off of a call from the time the caller took the call to actually hands on chest doing compressions. That is a huge. 120 seconds is 2 minutes. That's 20% chance of survival for someone that needs CPR. 20%, and we shaved that off in 1 year because of how my staff approached this training and how RQI provided it and the feedback we got. And the same thing goes with the from the acquiring the address from the beginning of the call to getting your address. We're pretty good at it. The industry standard 60 seconds, you should be able to get an address. We went from 20 seconds to 15. Our average is 15 seconds. We have an address that's verified, not just pulled in any alley dump, but actually verified, and then moving into the call. And that really speaks to both the program and the continuing attention to that, and to my staff being willing to listen to that and then apply it directly, because they applied what they're learning and changed those times dramatically.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to that there, where it kind of took away the thinking process for us. We used to get in this, is the patient conscious? Oh no, they're unconscious. Are they breathing? And this whole breathing part would delay maybe even a minute, where, well, kind of, okay, can you take the phone over so I can hear them breathing, and now you're wasted 30 seconds. And so now our staff has really adapted to, are they breathing normally? If the answer is no, or they're not sure, hey, here we go, we're going to start CPR. And that's like, for me, I'm like, that's probably one of the easiest calls I can take. like unconscious, not breathing normally. I tone it out. I have an address. All right, we're going to start CPR. Well, you know, and you just direct them to where, hey, if they're alive, they'll push you off. And so we've really adapted to that, where I really think that's cut down on our time, you know, dramatically. And that,
Right.
I mean, seconds save lives.
Right.
Right. Yeah, no, you're definitely correct. And so we now have, you know, what or why, you know, you chose the program. But what are you all doing at the center to eliminate these preventable deaths from out of hospital cardiac arrest? Like, you know, we're kind of touching on it a little bit, but, you know, going a little further, a little deeper into that.
So I think that the fact that we're providing higher quality triage and answering our phones, and I think that while we're only looking at telephone CPR calls, that's what the training's based on. That's what all of the QA/QI is based on. That has a ripple effect in how we handle other calls. I pull data on all of our medical calls and look at what is our time from call to dispatch and what is our time from call to arrival of the first unit. And all of our times are being compressed because we've taken this kind of low volume, high risk call, and we've applied a lot of attention to it. And that has a direct correlation to other calls that we take and how fast we process those, how fast we move into giving them some sort of pre-arrival instructions. So I think that's part of it. I think I use this data all the time. I use it with the media to celebrate the fact that we're doing these things. We give life-saving awards to our staff when we have the medics giving us that good information. We're hoping to be able to supply our data into the CARES program so that we can actually look at Ustine survival and what our program is actually impacting that within our county. So there's lots of ways that this is applied directly back to our community in helping them. It also helps me argue for funding and argue for programming and additional training and those kinds of things, because I can show we selected this with intent and look what it's done for us and what it's done for our community. So let me now take this with intent and do the same thing. And there's credibility there because this program has definitely changed our trajectory for sure.
That's awesome. And that was a question that I was going to ask you as well, is do you take any of this data or just the information on the program alone and tell, you know, the community about, you know, all of this new stuff that you're doing? So that's cool. That is awesome that, you know, there's that outreach so that they know, you know, this is the stuff that we're doing and it's working very well.
Yeah, we get that out on our social media. We get that out in press releases. I try to get in front of the city council at least once every couple of months and remind them of how important our staff is and what a crazy great job they're doing. And those life-saving awards are really one way to get in front of city council. Dennis was just interviewed by the local newspaper about a month ago or so because of the save that he was involved in. So, you know, that is reflective to the community too. When we're looking to build a new center, that's our next big project. When we have to go back to the community and tell them we need funding, we need to be able to find a good location and get public support, because public support is necessary. Without it, we go nowhere. Right. This adds to the weight of that public support. So I think every little piece that we do like this just adds to that credibility and the ability for us to make big changes for our agency and our community.
Excellent. Now, Dennis, so I want to go from here now and segue into some save stories that we have here. So we've got a few here, and so Dennis, I want to go to you. You know, the first one, it looks like it was sometime back in April.
So April 4th, these are 3 saves, and these individuals who were involved in these got life-saving awards, and they're all from 2021. So on April 4th, we received a call where a patient was not, I think it was put in as possible stroke. And we get these calls where, oh yeah, he's been sick. And pretty soon you get down to, well, are they conscious? Oh no, they're not. Are they breathing normally? Not really. And you're like, okay, we're going to CPR, you know? So this is one of those typical calls where the call taker identified CPR fairly quickly. He was able to dispatch in 16 seconds. And again, that goes back to the data where, you know, we've always had in our center that goal of dispatching. When Carl was training us, when I first started, it was always like 60 seconds. There was no like written rule or anything like that. It was just, hey, you're trying to tone it out in under a minute. And our times are improving dramatically, where in 16 seconds, this call was dispatched. Within a minute of the call, we were doing CPR. Medics arrived within 8 minutes. You're looking at 8 minutes where if we weren't doing CPR, that's 80% right there of survival rate. So we had CPR going during this time. Our call taker is giving that, reassurance. Hey, they're trying to get there as soon as they can. You continue doing CPR until they take over. Ultimately, the gentleman was airlifted. So from the beginning of the call, an hour and 8 minutes after the call was made, he was being flown over to St. Michael's Hospital. That's our nearest cardiac hospital, where he was being given some life-saving, treatment. But ultimately, again, it starts with us getting that toned out, getting CPR going, and then medics getting there and giving this patient some treatment and getting them airlifted for this heart attack. So our communications officer got a life-saving award for that. He stuck with it and just gave instructions, which the reporting party was able to follow and ultimately save her husband's life. So that was April 4th of last year. I had one September 13th of last year. I was able to dispatch it in about 19 seconds. The first thing that was said was difficulty breathing. We got cut off. I had to call back. So we couldn't start compressions until about 3 minutes after the initial call. And this is the message I've been trying to send to our community when I was interviewed here recently. It really has a lot to do with our community, with our reporting parties. So you have basically two choices. Number one, you can yell, scream, cuss at me, do all those things and be upset. And we get that. You're going through the worst time of your life. Or number two, you're going to step up, you're going to follow instructions, and you're ultimately going to save this family member's life. And in all these three stories here, we had reporting parties who were willing to listen to the instructions that were given and follow them. And even though at times maybe there was some frustration, I tell them, I'm like, ma'am or sir, right now, the only person who can help your husband is you. Let's go ahead and get him flat on his back. Let's start doing compressions, and you're going to do these until they take over. If you're getting tired, take a quick break, and then let's get back to it. Do you have a neighbor? This is where RQI comes in, where, when we're doing these simulations, hey, is there a neighbor? Maybe there's someone upstairs. Maybe you're outside and you could, hey, help me, is there someone else that can come take over and give you some assistance? In addition to that, we're always broadcasting all of our CPR calls, and a little bit later, I'll get to that, to where how it really is, it goes full circle. But here on September 13th, my reporting party did CPR for about 11 minutes. And ultimately, they gave him the treatment. They got him transported. We did compressions, like I said, within 3 minutes of the call, and it saved her husband's life. He was able to get the care that he needed, but she was an awesome, from what I remember. I just continue to reassure, you're doing a great job, man. Keep it going. I want to hear you counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you hear them counting. I mean, that gets you pumped up. You're like, hey, good job. Keep it going. And she just continued until they took over. And so for me, it was an honor to be in that position, to be able to give her some help. And she did the rest. And so it is so satisfying to to take one of those calls where you're like, man, that was a great reporting party, man. Good for you.
Yeah, those are some of the best ones, right? And a lot of times too, and this is good because this is an adult, right? But a lot of the times we find that the children who are calling in, they're the ones who are the best ones, and they listen and they take instruction. But then adults call and it's just, it goes out the window sometimes. But with this, this is awesome. When you have those reporting parties that are there and they step up and they do everything that you're telling them so that they can assist this person who is in need of help. And that was also one of the questions I was going to ask about the satisfaction, being able to get these types of results and everything and cutting down those times. How does that feel? How does that make you feel?
Oh, it feels amazing. I think everyone can kind of see, hey, we were able to give some clear instructions. And sometimes you really have to kind of just get their attention and, hey, right now, I mean, they're not going to just arrive, 2 minutes from now. They're going to be 3 minutes from now. And they're going to be 5 minutes from now. And they're going to be 10 minutes from now. And they're going to be 15 minutes from now. And they're going to be 20 minutes from now. And they're going to be 30 minutes from now. And they're going to be 40 minutes from now. And they're going to be 50 minutes from now. And they're going to be 60 minutes from now. And they're going to be 70 minutes from now. And they're going to be 80 minutes from now. And they're going to be 90 minutes from now. And they're going to be 100 minutes from now. And they're going to be 200 minutes from now. And they're going to be 300 minutes from now. And they're going to be 400 minutes from now. And they're going to be 500 minutes from now. And they're going to be 600 minutes from now. And they're going to be 700 minutes from now. And they're going to be 800 minutes from now. And they're going to be 900 minutes from now. And they're going to be 1000 minutes from now. And they're going to be 10 around the corner. They're gonna get to you right now. You can save this person's life, so I need you to do this. And it's so satisfying when you can, get their attention and they just go ahead and do it. And I think we've been getting a little bit more of that. Of course, you have your, overdoses or certain calls where no one is willing to step up and do CPR. And those are challenging, because you're trying, hey, is there someone there we need to start CPR. And in the same time, you're toning it out and there isn't one compression that's done until fire department gets there. And you're just like, oh, come on, let's help this person. So getting these calls is so satisfying. You're like, this is why I'm doing the work. This is why I'm training, so that I'm ready for this call and for that person who wants to take the instructions and do it.
And I wanted to add just a little bit of like background for our 911 center. So your audience has an idea. We're a pretty small, medium-sized center. So when Dennis is given CPR instructions for 8 minutes or 11 minutes to the caller, he's also toning out the fire department, talking on the radio, talking to law enforcement, and managing that phone call all at the same time. And so for our staff at a center our size, that is both the call taker and a multidiscipline dispatcher, to maintain these types of times and this quality of telephone CPR is just, again, outstanding. And I just want to make sure that everyone understands that complexity. We're not simply a call taker that's just handling a single phone call. We're handling multiple things all at the same time, like many of us do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that too, because there are a lot of times that people think that you're dedicated to one thing, and that's just those phones. And I was the same way when I was in dispatch, the last center, well, both centers, but the last center that I was at, I mean, there was minimum three of us, but like on the weekend there was four of us. But even so, if I'm a call taker, I've got a partner who's doing calls as well, but we're not just taking one phone call, it's multiple phone calls and triaging through there and which one is the highest priority and where to go. Also talking on the radio, typing, yelling over to someone who's on the radios to say something else that's going on so that they have the instant information, possibly eat something while we're there, and there's all of this that is happening, and we kick ass at it. We do it.
Right. Yes.
We do it.
Yep.
Yeah, it truly is an amazing group to be a part of. Like Carl was saying, I mean, you don't even think about it anymore. It's just automatic, you're toning it out. And what's been very nice about, our group, we really have an amazing group. We hear, you have those calls or those buzzwords that you hear. Oh, someone tried to kill themselves, or, oh, they're not breathing. And it's like, oh, your ears perk up and right away we'll take on the law enforcement channel for our partner. Or I'll say something like, hey, I'll go ahead and tone it out for you. You go ahead and get started on CPR. Those little things right there, again, you're shaving off seconds. Whereas if I'm having to do it myself, all right, I'll give some instructions. Hey, get him flat on his back and we're going to start CPR, but I'm having to tone out and I can't be giving instructions. But it's so great when, your team is able to have that dynamic where I'll tone it out for you. You focus on CPR and I've got your law enforcement radio. And that's how we can get away with doing it all.
Yes.
And so it's an amazing feeling to see everyone working to one ultimate goal. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes me stay here.
Yeah, it's that well-oiled machine that's going.
That's right.
And, it's funny too that I've talked to people where I've said I've always been amazed by, we will all be sitting in the room and talking about something or laughing and whatever, but as soon as the phone rings, business, get to work, do what we're supposed to doing, and then when we get off the phone, so like I was saying, and you jump right back into it
mid sentence to something you were saying 20 minutes ago. Absolutely. All day long. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, it's such a fun group, and I miss the job. I really do. There was so much to it. Dennis, so there was another story actually that happened back in December as well, right?
Yeah, so we had a communications officer who this was after Christmas Day, and it happened to be in an area just out in the county. We had just gotten, it was just like all the worst case scenarios where there had just been some fresh snow. It's already a volunteer station, so you literally have volunteers who are paged. They're going to go to the station. so that they need about, at least 2 people to show up so they can get into rig and go to the call. And so this dispatcher actually conducted CPR for over 30 minutes of CPR. Individual was unconscious, not breathing. This was a friend calling in and found his buddy who was not breathing. He was, a little bit panicked, of course. Our communications officer did a great job in calming him down and getting him to doing CPR. Once again, she dispatched it in 30 seconds. CPR was being conducted in less than 2 minutes from the time of the call. And, and I'm sorry, no, on that one, it was within 1 minute, we had CPR going. And so the fire personnel arrived 32 minutes after the start of the call. So she had to continue to reassure him. I was listening to the call where he was at one point saying, because when you're doing high quality CPR, you're getting tired. It is tiring. Right. You have medics who arrive and they're taking turns every 2 minutes. And you're talking about, guys who are in shape and performing CPR, they're getting tired. The gentleman actually said at one point, I feel like I'm going to pass out. I think I'm going to become a patient. And so our dispatcher did a great job in, hey, you know what? Why don't you go unlock the door right now? Basically give him a little break. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and unlock the door and then let's get back to it. And he followed those instructions. At one point, I think he was just like, where are they? He was, 30 minutes is a long time.
Right.
And, even at 15, 20, you're like, oh my goodness. And so he started, cursing, and the dispatcher even said, hey, if this helps you, go ahead, let it out. It's okay. You're not going to hurt my feelings, Right. Because we have to be that basically that wall, like, go ahead. I know you're frustrated. Let it out. Continue compressions. And he did. And it was our chief who arrived first, and he sent out a nice email in regards to this, basically giving credit to that dispatcher. If it wouldn't have been for CPR, this gentleman would have been deceased on scene. And in that reporting party, doing what it took, even though he himself was having some issues, they had to assess him when they got there because he was very fatigued, experiencing weakness. And then for that volunteer station, having to deal with the elements, the weather, that whole group just doing what's necessary to get the job done. We starts with us. We're going to make sure we're doing our part and make sure that those responders have the best chance to give this individual that treatment that they need to save his life. And that's exactly what happened. So I know she was pretty excited about that incident and being able to give this instruction. 32 minutes is a long, long time. And she continued to reassure him, you're doing great. Keep it going. Good job. Hey, I want you counting. And I was like, wow, amazing. Just amazing to see and to hear. And, but that's, again, practice makes perfect, repetition. And that's what we're getting on our quarterly simulations. And we've bought into it.
Wow. That is amazing, man, because a time like that, I think the only time I had I was on a call that long was more so it was like a SWAT call. It started out as domestic or something, and it ended up getting violent, and there was weapons, and so they had SWAT out there. It was on the phone forever, but not doing CPR, that's different because, and a lot of times too, you think, going that long that the person's probably not going to make it, but also, right. With everything going on, starting it right away and continuing to go and having someone there that was willing to continue to do it, even though they were letting out some steam by swearing, but hey, it helped. It helped them to continue doing what they needed to do. And then it ended up having a good outcome, so that the person taking the call, even the person, of course, who's there too, they all, and especially the patient, they're all happy that, everything came out good after all. That's amazing.
Yeah. And if I do have 1 minute, I wanted to share one that we had recently.
Yes.
So this was April 18th, and I was here for that one. My partner takes a call. We didn't even have an age on this guy. We found out later on that he was about 48, 49. Mm-hmm. And so basically unconscious, not breathing, dispatched in 30 seconds. And this was also in Forks, and it's a volunteer station. and it's 3:30, almost 4 in the morning. And like you said, you know, you might have nothing going on, and then boom, you got to be on. And
Right.
this dispatcher, I mean, she's like I like to say, she's a badass. Like she gets it done. She is awesome to work with. And so she tones it out. She's doing CPR. And we had a deputy who normally goes out of service at 3 in the morning. He was still in service doing reports at this time. We had just called out a Forks officer for a suspicious call, and he was suiting up to go to that call. Well, we broadcast all of our CPR calls. So I let our deputy know. He started heading that way. The officer who I had to call out, I let him know, hey, I've got a CPR at this location, if you could head that way. So it was kind of like the perfect storm where the volunteer station is going to, you know, it's going to take them a while to get there. It took them 14 minutes to arrive to the call. But law enforcement got there within 6 minutes. CPR was being already administered in less than 2 minutes from the call. 4 minutes later, we have law enforcement arriving. They had an automated external defibrillator that they brought in. The deputy did. The one Forks officer was doing CPR. They hooked him up. They did, I think, 2 shocks before fire department got there. And then by the time they transported this guy, they'd done 5 shocks on him. They transported him, and in the ambulance, he was looking around. I mean, when the deputies, this is the deputy's quote, he looked dead. I walked in there and I thought this guy's gone. They literally revived this guy, transported him. By the time he got to the hospital, he was cracking jokes.
What?
And for me, it was, you know, we've seen it before, but for me, I'm like, wow, that was like full circle. You know, you got law enforcement getting in the mix. You got fire department getting there. They're transporting him. I think he ended up getting airlifted. I don't know. I haven't followed up, you know, as of now. But from what I knew, he was awake. He was cracking jokes. He was going to get some treatment. And that was a really cool call that I really appreciated being a part of that. Again, we're a big team. It's a bigger group than just us here in dispatch. And it's so awesome to be a part of that and to see those results.
Damn.
Yeah.
I'm like right now.
Yeah. And I gotta say, if you like what you're hearing and you like how we're speaking about our staff, our team, our group of people, we're hiring.
That's right.
City of Port Angeles and Washington State. I'm gonna be shameless. We are hiring. We're looking for qualified people to come work for us. We're so short staffed, as is everybody, that I'm back on console sometimes 2-3 days a week, working regular shifts. So much so that our RQI partners have suggested that I should be going to their refresher training and going through their simulations. And I'm like, oh, all right, fair enough. So now I got to face the music as well. But yeah, we are. This is a great group of people. I love all of my staff, and they just do such outstanding work. And when we give them tools like this, they just grab them and make the most of them. And I couldn't be prouder, you know. And because of my staff, because of their professionalism, the city of Port Angeles actually designated our staff as first responders officially through the city, the 911 center, about a little over a year ago. They went to that effort, you know, kind of ceremonial, but it was something to celebrate our staff. Yeah. And then recently, we just passed some legislation that I've been part of a large team of people working on in Washington State that actually provides us with mandatory certification, mandatory training levels, and reclassification of first responders in Washington State. So, we're making progress. And I think it's these types of things, these kinds of stories that support these kinds of programs, which support the profession, which tells the community that we're more than just administrative workers. We're more than just somebody that answers a phone or parrots what they're hearing. We're professionals that are dealing with massive data streams and trying to sort stuff out and get stuff out appropriately. And, I think we're going to keep seeing that. We're seeing states all across the country falling and becoming first responders. We're getting certification required. It's exciting. And I think it's going to happen at the federal level as well. So.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. As I put out there, is the era of the headset, man. There's a lot of good stuff coming, and this has been so good to have the both of you on here and share these stories. and just very uplifting, and just, you know, a highlight of the powerful work that all of you do there in your center. Now, as we go into the wrap up of this, I swear it doesn't even feel like we've been here for an hour. We've been talking back and forth. It's been so good. But what I want to know from the both of you, and again, whoever wants to go first, reflecting on your career, you know, what's something that you're most grateful for?
Personally, I'm grateful for the opportunity. I came from a completely different background. I didn't even know what this work involved, and it really is. I enjoy what I do. I truly do, and I love there's perks, of course. There's benefits. I know this is kind of crazy, but I enjoy the shift work. You know, it's given me even more time than I ever had in construction with my family. I might not be able to have every single weekend off. Personally, I think weekends are overrated, but having every other, you know, it's been so good for myself and for my family. I feel very blessed to be in this position, and I truly do enjoy what I do. And I try to motivate others to, you know, here we talked about it a little bit, self-care. We're trying to get into if we can do some yoga stretching or getting up, you know, moving. That's, I think, the next step for us as far as taking care of each other, you know, going out on trips or hiking. We have such a beautiful place we live in. But that's, you know, you got to have that lifestyle of, you know, having some exercise so that you can remove that stress and be part of your family and not be, you know, if you hold it all in, you know, we all get to that burnout stage and you have to do something about it. And I've just been very fortunate to be able to balance that, where I really don't see myself doing anything else. I've thought about, you know, construction again. It's booming right now. And I'm like, gosh, I really enjoy what I do. I love sometimes not knowing what's on the other line. And for me, just reflecting, I just want to continue to hopefully stay positive. I've always said, if this job starts taking away my happiness, it's probably time to move on. Up to this day, I just feel very blessed and honored to be a part of this group. And so it's such an honor.
That's awesome. Excellent.
Yeah, and I won't talk for too long because I see we're past that hour. It's amazing. but gratitude, to me, gratitude is a practice that you need to mindfully participate in. I think it does amazing things to brain chemistry, all the research that's been out there. But so I've been practicing gratitude for a long time. And I will say, for me, I have gratitude that this particular industry, this particular profession has put a roof over my head. It's fed my kids. It's fed my family. It is provided for us. So that's a chunk to be grateful for, even though I miss birthdays and I missed Christmas and I missed like a lot, because we do shift work and we're in emergency services. And I'm grateful that because of my connections, because of the work I've done, because of all the extra things that I've done, that I've moved up and I'm in a position now where I feel like I still get to dispatch, which is great because I kind of miss that, being on the floor and doing the thing. But I also get to give back to our profession at the state level, hopefully at a federal level, participate in unique new research that's going to hopefully help our profession. And just being part of that and being part of a leadership team here at the city of Port Angeles that believes in our staff and does everything they can to try to support them and take care of them and provide them opportunity. I'm immensely grateful that that's the circumstances that I'm in now, because I haven't always been there. And so, you know, like Dennis said, being able to give back, for me, it's giving back to the community, but it's also giving back to the people that I grew up with here working on the floor, and being able to provide them the tools they need to do the job. It's amazing. It's like nothing else. It really is.
Man, if I was looking to get back into dispatch, I'd go work with you guys, because
come on down. I'll hire you.
Maybe I'll go work part-time. I'll fly out there for a week or two and I'll work part-time with you guys. It just sounds like just a great spot to be, you know, and just everyone there, the brotherhood and sisterhood, and this thin gold line. It's just, there's nothing like it. So thank you both for the jobs that you do and for coming on and for sharing your stories. And of course, with this program and all the good stuff that you guys are doing. Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, and thank you for providing a platform so that hopefully lots of people out there that either have an interest or maybe they're in their career and are kind of feeling like maybe they're done, that these types of stories, and you're about storytelling, that these types of stories are what give people that little bit of a boost that maybe gets them through the next year or 2 years or a career. You know, I've been doing this over 30 years. And I suspect Dennis will be as well someday. I'll be long retired and happy, but yeah, I mean, so a thank you to you as well for your outreach and kind of your mission in life right now is getting this word out to people. It's fantastic. So yeah.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate it so much. So I'm going to be right back here with the both of you in just one moment. I'm going to bring Julie back up here on screen. And Julie, wow.
I'm actually, I'm glad I was off camera because, and I don't want to get emotional again, but I got emotional during some of those stories. I lost a family member in October to cardiac arrest. And so I know the impact that had on our family. So hearing these SAVE stories and thinking about kind of the opposite side of that, the impact that these families and communities had because that person is still here. I mean, that's so meaningful. And you don't always think about the ripple effect of the SAVEs, but we should. It's pretty inspiring and incredible. And they're an inspiring group. I mean, you have to be vulnerable to be in a program that's always asking the question, how can we be better? And that doesn't happen without leadership either. So it was a great hour. I loved every minute of it. And thank you for providing that opportunity.
No, of course, and thank you, RQI for being a media partner sponsor and just giving this opportunity as well to bring you all on and do this and share more information about everything that you are doing. How can people find out more about you? Whether it's you to get a hold of you, email or whichever, or RQI as a whole, social media, website, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we have some great information about the program on our website, rqipartners.com. You can always reach out to me either through email, julie.buckingham@rqipartners.com, or I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so you can find me there as well.
All right, excellent. Well, again, thank you for this, and this is the first one. This one was for April. We've got 3 more coming up, so make sure to look out for those because that's going to be an excellent time sharing more stories and everything that RQI is doing. And again, thank you so very much for being a media partner sponsor.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
So I'll be right back here with you. And for all of you who are watching, listening, if you have any comments or questions, or you want to be a guest on the flagship show or any of the other live broadcasts that I have going on, you can email us, and that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. If you're looking for any bonus content, you'd like to support us, you can check us out. That's going to be patreon.com/wttpodcast. And again, this was sponsored by and an exclusive episode of Media Partner Spotlight with RQI. And again, as always, thank you so much for being a media partner sponsor. This can be seen on YouTube as well as Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. And for the flagship show, you can listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone. And we will see you in the next one.